This podcast is part of the Michigan Sports and Entertainment Podcast Network. Go to michigansportsandentertainment.com for more great podcasts.
Look out, Larkin's wide open. There's the pass. He's in the clear. Scores! Oh, Dylan Larkin! Zadina wants it, got it. He shoots, he scores! Philip Zadina, his first national. How can they go?
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Hockeytown Rundown podcast. I'm your host, as always, Jay Sussex, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jay. How's it going, Jay?
Good. Exciting. We're back in hockey season here in the fall, my favorite time of year. So a lot of exciting stuff for us to talk about today with the Red Wings. What do we got first?
Yeah, we got a lot going on. I think most notably, we've been off the air for a little bit, but it's nice to be back. And I think most notably, we have to talk about the Niklas Kronwall retirement. That was definitely a big thing that happened while we were gone. The nice big tribute video that got posted on the Red Wings Twitter page, and I thought that was really cool. That a cool way to sort of announce his retirement and sort of announce his next role as well with the team. What are some of your thoughts about that? Obviously we thought, kind of expected the retirement to happen, but how do you think that sort of impacts the team going forward? And what's your favorite memory of him on the team? How do you remember, having Kronwall sort of involved with your team or with the Red Wings, I should say?
Well, one thing I want to do to start is I want to do a poll where we ask folks what was their favorite Kronwall hit, because he's had a lot of them. And personally, I think probably one of the best ones was the one against Martin Havlat when he was with Chicago. I'm not sure if it was when he was with Chicago or Minnesota, but he just wrecked him, and I'll never forget that because it was it's like driving your car just right into a damn brick wall, dude. That's what that is what it was. So he just had amazing timing and when it came to the hits, and for the most part, he didn't take himself really out of position to do it. Most of the time when he made those kind of hits, they were really calculated and he made them at the right times. But he wasn't a malicious player. He wasn't out to hurt people. He wasn't out, he didn't take cheap shots on people. For the most part, he's a pretty clean player, very classy guy. And he just had a knack for just lining people up, man. And that's what I remember about him. He was a smart player. He had some offensive output. I think it was 2011, 2012. He actually put 15 goals up, which was his high point for his career. And that includes his time with, his team in Sweden and with Grand Rapids. He finished his career with 953 games, so he got close to that 1,000-game mark, and he very well would have hit it if he played another year, considering he played 79 games the year before, so almost the full season. He finished with 83 goals and 349 assists to total 432 points and 564 penalty minutes. The last few years of his career he was a minus player, but obviously you look at the years that he that 2007-2008 year when the Wings won the cup, plus 25. So in the playoffs, the guy played in the playoffs quite a bit. I remember the first, I think it was 2007 when the Wings were supposed to get to the cup. A lot of people were picking them to make it. When they ran into that Anaheim team, he actually missed the playoffs that year because of injury. And I think if he would have made it, honestly, I think we would have went to the cup that year, because you remember that was, I think, you wouldn't remember maybe as much as me, but when we were in Game 6, I think it was against Anaheim, Andres Lilia coughed up the puck. I think it was to Niedermeyer or somebody like that, and it pretty much blew that game. If Kronwall is playing, Lilia's probably not on the ice at that time. Honestly, it was unfortunate, but I think really that the Wings could have gone to the Cup 3 years in a row if not for Kronwall being injured. And he struggled with injury early in his career. But then, after that, he had a knee issue, and we all know that. And that's really kind of what forced his retirement. But he's still 38 years old, so, it's not like he retired early, per se, considering this, this league is a young man's league now. So, and I think with Kronwall, he went out the way he wanted to. As far not making the playoffs, obviously, he would have liked to have done that. We all would have liked to have seen him go out on a more positive note. But, he played almost the full season, and he looked like as much of the Kronwall of old as you could have hoped for at 38 years old. I saw him at training camp. He was shaking hands and signing, autographs and taking pictures with people. Just a total class act. I saw him in the stands, or there's like a little mezzanine or loft area at Traverse City Center Ice Arena, and he was up there, scouting, watching players, taking notes, and then you got to see Steve Yzerman come up to him, and he was kind of, I don't know what they were saying, but, I could see Steve Yzerman pointing at the ice and stuff, and you could tell he was kind of giving Kronwall some tips or trying to share his thoughts about what he's looking at, which is really cool to see now that Kronwall is part of the front office, because as you guys would know by now, Draper got promoted to director of amateur scouting, so it left a spot open for Kronwall. And right after he retired, he pretty much got asked by Yzerman, "Hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay in hockey? Do you want to take some time off?" And Kronwall told him, I want to stay in hockey in some capacity. I don't think he wants to be a coach or anything. At least it doesn't sound that way. So he's going to join the front office. And what it means for the roster, Chase, is that I don't think it leaves a spot open necessarily for anybody to come up from Grand Rapids. Because if you think about it, last year you had all those injuries with Daly and Erickson and Green, which allowed Hronek to play as many minutes as he did at the last, quarter of the season. So what it really means is that, you've got Hronek cementing a spot in the lineup, and if Daly and Erickson stay healthy, those are probably your number 5 and number 6, if not number 7 defensemen. And you still have Madison Bowie, who, he's not waiver eligible. So, I don't think they're going to just let him, try to get through waivers and risk losing him for nothing. I still stand by, the whole thing that, somebody like a Joe Hicketts could very well make it as a reserve player, like a 7th guy, if there's an injury issue, because if he does not make the team, he has to go through waivers. And some people think that he would not make it through waivers. I think he could, just because at this point of the season, there's a lot of players that are going to get put on waivers. These scouts, they know who all these players are. But, do you really want to... Kronwall's absence from the lineup, I don't really think changes much. So there's still going to be, there's still a gunfight going on for that probably that last spot. But I think ultimately, if everybody's healthy by the Predators game, I think October 5th maybe is when that is.
Yeah, it's October 5th is their season opener, I believe. And then they...
you're probably not going to see anybody else make the team. So really all it is Hronek took Kronwall's spot, really.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts, but I'm very sad to see him leave. I think it's time, Father Time's caught up with him, and I think he put everything he could into that last season, and it showed. The guy's a warrior. I loved watching him as a player. He's not a Hall of Fame material defender. His jersey's never going to go in the rafters or anything like that. But in the way that we think of a guy like McCarty being a difference player, for the Red Wings, what he did for this team, Kronwall was a great leader. He got up in front of the press every game last year when they lost a lot of those games. He did most of the speaking. He never, tried to sugarcoat anything. So I really appreciate Kronwall. I'm going to miss him dearly. He was one of my favorite players to watch during his time with the Red Wings, and I think he's going to be a really good front office executive. You can just tell he's going to put a lot into this job. He's going to take it seriously. He's got some great mentors to help him out and get him going, but I think he's going to be a valuable asset for the Red Wings in the front office. So what are your thoughts about Kronwall? And just similarly to what you asked me, what do you think it means for this team?
No, I mean, I share very similar thoughts in that sense. I didn't really get to see too much of Kronwall's career, as I guess my age sort of restricted it. One of my favorite things that I remember from Kronwall, I remember it was the Red Wings were playing Tampa Bay at the time, and it was in 2014, and this was, I believe it was a Kronwall hit Brian Callahan, and it was a massive, massive hit. I mean, huge Kronwall hit, and classic hit, and the whole Joe Louis arena just was chanting like, "You got Kronwall," and I just thought that was like literally like one of my favorite memories of him on the team. That chant is just was iconic to me as a kid. I mean, he's sitting there, probably a 13-year-old kid at the time, sitting there listening to that on TV. I mean, was probably one of the coolest things. I definitely dated myself in that sense, in that memory, given the fact that I was just barely a teenager at that moment in time. But
dating yourself at 20-something years old is not an issue. When you say you're dating yourself and you're 40, it's a little different. Okay, but no, I get your point, man. I mean, but there's, what they have, like one of those motivational posters named after him, like "You got Kronwalled." Have you seen that?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that, like, come on. I mean, there's not. There's that. I mean, it's cool. I mean, and they actually there's like a definition, even for what being Kronwalled, what it actually means, which to be a player to have, like, to actually
that kind
have
of lasting impact, just sort of that's what I think his sort of legacy is, just the fact that like he has a hit named after him, like his style of play was so iconic, is the fact that everybody knows about getting Kronwall.
Yeah, like there's
an iconic thing.
You can go on Google, and I just typed it in right while we're talking. Urban Dictionary has Kronwalled: sudden change in orientation from vertical to horizontal due to contact with a body or substance of great influence, often immediately followed by dizziness, confusion, and or loss of consciousness. And then they give an example. Martin Havlat sure did get Kronwalled in the Western Conference Finals. So I mean, he definitely made his mark, man.
Absolutely. So I mean, obviously, it was just really cool to be able to experience that. Watch him lift the Stanley Cup at least once was great. But like I said, I think or like you were mentioning, I think his impact with the team, like is pretty similar. I mean, his Yzerman basically said, he set out at the beginning of the season, before the season started, just the fact that they had a plan for if he returned and a plan for if he didn't. So I feel like they're confident with what they're going forward with. Like you said, I think Hronek will just get those minutes, and I think he's the right guy sort of replace Kronwall in that sense. Giving Hronek more minutes is only good for his development. I mean, he looked great last season. He's looked great in the offseason as well, and we'll sort of get into that a little bit later on in the podcast. But, I feel like Hronek is definitely the best guy to sort of take those minutes over, and I think it's best for the team in that sense. The Red Wings will obviously have some big holes on defense next offseason when they lose a lot of guys. They'll lose out on Eriksson and a couple others. I believe Bowie's also a restricted free agent. I'm trying to think of who else is.
I think the Kaiser and Hronek are the only two guys that actually are signed on the defense after this year.
Mm-hmm. So you'll definitely have some holes there, but I mean, I think you'll see a lot of younger guys come up. I mean, obviously you mentioned Cholowski will probably end up finding his way onto the roster. I think some of those Grand Rapids guys will end up coming up after that. Like you said, Hicketts is also on a 2-year deal, so he could find his way onto the main roster, that final year. And after they sort of lose a lot of those guys to free agency. I'd like to see them bring Bowie back in some aspect, and even if just qualifying his restricted free agent status. Just keeping him on for the minimum.
I think he could honestly be trade bait. Depending, he could be a piece. I mean, it really depends on what Yzerman thinks of him. He may or may not fit into the profile, the type of defenseman that Yzerman's looking for. I mean, and I'm going to tell you, I don't know a ton about Bowie, or didn't know a ton about him before he got to the Red Wings. So, I mean, I think for me, I'm going to be paying attention to how he plays, but it's going to be Yzerman's call what he decides to do with him, because you've got Oliver Koski that played really good in camp and the red and white game, and he played his debut this past game against the Islanders and looked good. He had a hell of a goal in the red white game, like a power play goal, I think it was, just ripped it. He finds a way to get his shot through. He's an exciting player to watch, and like you said, Cholowski. Now you've got Moritz Seider. So those three guys, I think next year, honestly, you're going to see Moritz Seider on this roster. I think you could see Koski on this roster. I think you could see Cholowski on this roster. I think those three guys right there could end up very easily being on this roster. I don't see Cholowski spending more than one more year. I think he'll spend the rest of this. I think he will fight for a spot. I think we'll get into the training camp stuff in a sec, but I mean, just ultimately looking at what this whole thing looks like next year, I think you could have as many as three guys that are going to start the year in Grand Rapids this year, more than likely. Those guys starting the season next year with the Red Wings on the main roster.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Bowie does have some upside there. I mean, the kid's only 23 years old, two-way defenseman. He plays well. He's got, he definitely does have some, the skill set. I don't necessarily know, if he has all the tools necessarily to become, the kind of defenseman that the Red Wings are looking for. But I do agree with you in the sense that he could potentially become trade bait.
I just don't see the hockey IQ yet. Like, he made some pretty bonehead turnovers last year. But, I think to give him the benefit of the doubt, he also got put on the bench a lot for his time with the Capitals, being that they're, they had won the Cup the year before. So, I mean, the good thing with him is that he's been around, like, high-end players for a long time now. I mean, he's been in an organization that's, been winning. So he's been around other guys that have been mentoring him and stuff. My concern is really just, is the hockey IQ there? Is he able to break the puck out effectively and avoid turnovers? Because, if he is able to do that, then great. But I mean, we're gonna have to see how much ice time he gets and how many games he actually gets in, depending on if both Eriksson and Daly are healthy.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And like you said, I mean, I think he still has a lot, of room to grow. Like you said, I think that hockey IQ is not quite there. But again, he's young. I think, he's got room to grow. I'm not necessarily sure if, the Red Wings really necessarily want to build on that. But I mean, I think keeping him for a young core, at least for the next, year or two. I mean, I'm not sure if they decide what his sort of trade value is.
I'd rather have him than some other 34-year-old defenseman that we picked up at free agency that's going to take a spot. At least,
no, I agree.
At least now you've got somebody young enough that still has, some potential that if you decide he's just not a good fit, you could include him in a trade. I mean, it may take including a guy like a Bowie to move a contract like Helms or something like that at the trade deadline. Like, you might have to throw him in, kind of like what Washington did to to get Jensen from the Red Wings. They included Bowie in that trade when really I think Detroit's biggest concern was getting that second round pick out of that deal.
Yeah.
He came with it, and I'm guessing that's for salary cap reasons or roster, numbers or something like that.
Yeah.
So that
contracts in that sense, but
yeah, he was the extra piece. I mean, and so now you really see a full, him starting with the team, working out with the team. Is it a fit or not?
Yeah, I think that'll definitely be a big question going forward. And I think, a lot of those questions, I'm not really sure how much how much he's been playing in camp. I'm sure he's been getting some decent minutes or at least something in, on defense in camp so far. And we saw it a lot during the prospects tournament. I know there were some players that you had your eyes on. I actually got to catch a lot of the prospects tournament, not so much a training camp. So I'm just, be looking to help you out with it as much as I can with this, but you're probably going to have to carry your training camp session, because I know if for anyone who doesn't know out there, anyone who doesn't follow us on Twitter, at Hockeytown Rundown on Twitter, Jay and his two kids were actually at training camp, and he got some videos. I'm not sure if you guys saw some of those videos on Twitter, but there were some cool photos and some cool media up there, and we'll sort of get into that later in the podcast, but definitely a cool thing there. But we'll kind of jump into, the prospects tournament a little bit, and some of the players that jumped out at us, and who were some of the players who was kind of one player that you really, I guess we'll start on offense. Who was like one offensive player you sort of noticed that stuck out to you when you were watching the prospects tournament?
Well, are we going to start with the obvious?
We certainly can.
it was Veleno, right?
Yeah.
The one thing I heard about Veleno was that he spent the summer really training with Red Wings, and like they helped him with his shot release, which was one of the concerns they had. And this is the whole thing about, when you draft a player like Veleno, and the book on him was that, he's got elite skating, he's got, high, high level hockey IQ, very good vision, two-way player, but the two things that they wanted him to work on, or the two things that the league was not sold on with him yet, was the first was his ability to score, his actual goal scoring ability. And then the other thing, which, I don't know, it was a big of an issue just because young players often struggle with this, is the defensive side of the game, forwards at least. Like how much of a two-way player was he? And Blashill and everybody else has been talking about, if you're going to make this team, if you're going to be on the Red Wings, you can't just be one-dimensional. The league is too good. You're not going to score every game, so you have to make sure that you're, especially as a center, you have to make sure that you're checking the other team and that you're able to get the puck back. And that's the whole thing. You got to be defensively responsible. So he spent all of his last junior year at Drummondville really, really working on his two-way game, and really did a great job with it from what Sean Horkoff had said. But then this summer, and even before that, he was really, really working on that shot release, like trying to make it quicker, because he's got a good shot. It was just a matter of, it's kind of like, pitchers in baseball. There's some, you can throw the ball 95 miles an hour, but if it's not moving, then you're going to get hit, right? Mm-hmm. So same thing. He had a good shot, but he had to work on his release, so he wasn't telegraphing his shot so much and was able to kind of disguise it a little bit better and get it off quicker. Because the higher levels you're going to go in hockey, obviously the better goaltending you're going to run into. And these guys have crazy quick reflexes. So, it was obviously worked on it. What did he do? Put up like 7 goals or something? I forget. I don't know how many goals he scored. Something like that.
he was insane. Definitely lighting the lamp. But he was really good. And
that's playing against his peers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he really, stood out, and I was looking for him to. Zadina played really, really well. Mm-hmm. He just didn't score. And part of that is a holdover from his issues last year, where he's just trying to do too much. And we'll talk about Zadina a little bit more later on when we talk about the preseason, because I think it's the same trend. Like, I made notes even in camp. He's really putting the effort in. It's not an issue of this guy floating or taking days off or shifts off. This isn't the issue where, like, he's not scoring so the rest of his play suffers. He's putting the effort in. He's playing. He had like 5 assists, I think, in the tournament or something like that. Like, a lot of the goals that Veleno scored, he had the first assist on it, not the secondary. So I saw him make a lot of really, really good plays, and it's there, man. Like, it is there. He's so close. He just needs to catch a break. He needs to get some goals, get some confidence in his goal scoring ability, and he's going to be there. Because even Blashill has been saying that, there's some periods that he's looked like the best player on the ice. So you can see that talent there. In the prospect tournament, he was great, man. I thought he played really, really good. He just didn't score. And the other guy, Pearson looked really good.
Yeah, Chase Pearson.
Giovanni Smith looked really good.
Yeah, surprising candidate there.
I have my it's so much so that I really watched him closer in camp this year, and Taro Hirose.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. That was going to be the player I mentioned.
And I'll let you talk about Taro Hirose, but I just wanted to bring him up because I definitely noticed him a lot in the tournament. But the other guy that came up with Hirose, Kuffner, at the end of last season, Kuffner got some goals, and Kuffner. I think he's got to work on his skating a bit. But if he can score some goals at the AHL level, improve himself, and continue getting better, he'd be perfect on a third line in Detroit.
No, I agree. Yeah.
I think that would be a great situation for the Red Wings, when the spots open up a little bit. I'd love to see, someone like Kuffner just rack up goals in Grand Rapids and continue improving his game. Because that's a kid that, he did nothing but score in the NCAA and in prospect tournament against players that, some of which he was older than because he played full 4 years in college, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he's a little bit bigger, but, he definitely has a shot, man. So those are the guys that really stuck out to me. But, I mean, obviously Veleno, you can't deny it. I mean, the kid looks like we got one hell of a steal in the first round in 2018 there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things I'm really excited about is just the fact that, those two picks, I wasn't necessarily, I didn't really know a whole lot. I mean, when they sort of talked about Kuffner and, when they first got him from Princeton, when they first were able to claim him, I was a little bit interested. I was like, oh, okay. I was a little bit higher on Kuffner than I was Hirose. I know Hirose had at the time at Michigan State had gotten, I think it was all-team Big Ten. I think it was first-team Big Ten in 2017 with the Spartans.
Didn't he have the most points or something?
He had the most points. I think he was like in the top three. He's one of the top three finalists for I can't remember what it was. It was like Big Ten MVP or I can't remember what the award was.
He was in the running for Hobie Baker, wasn't he?
Yeah, Hobie Baker. That's what it is. It was but yeah, I mean, he played really well. I think Hirose just he almost left off. He almost started where he left off from last season. I mean, he played really well towards the end of the regular season and in camp. I mean, he continued to show that in the prospects tournament. It looks like he took a huge step up in his game.
Did you hear about what the Wings were kind of joking about with him when he got onto the Red Wings last year, like with his body and stuff?
No, I hadn't heard about that.
So there's an article out there, and like Larkin was kind of giving him crap, like this guy coming onto the team, and he doesn't look like a hockey player. Like he was so skinny and just didn't have much muscle to him. They just kind of was. I think they were just giving him a hard time, and he put on some muscle. I guess like he really worked hard during the summer and. Really worked on his build and stuff. So apparently he looks like a hockey player now. So that should only help him out because he's not a big guy, but man, is he smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean his hockey IQ is incredible, and I think that was his biggest, his most noticeable trait heading out of college, was just the fact that his hockey IQ was incredible. I remember writing the story when this news first broke, and his hockey IQ is great. I mean, he was a leader at Michigan State. Like we said before, one of their top scorers. And he was great. I mean, I watched a fair amount of Michigan hockey last season. I don't think Michigan hockey was as good. I think they'll have a really good season this year. They have Cam York and John Beecher, both drafted from the NFL and the NHL draft, this season. So they'll think they'll be a lot better. They had a little bit of a down year last year, but I remember watching Hirose last season. He was great. I mean, his hockey IQ definitely did translate in college as well. So, I mean, the kid had a great year last year, and especially on the Red Wings as well with this limited time. I mean, he took the most of it for sure on the main roster. I believe he finished with I think it was 1 goal and 7 assists on the main roster or something like that. It was something crazy like that.
And he was putting goals in. I mean,
yeah.
He's been scoring in preseason. He's been scoring in the prospects tournament. He scored in camp. So I think for him, it's just he'll have to continue working on his shot, but he's definitely more of a playmaker. And depending on what line he's on, it looks like he's going to be paired with Athanasiou.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's smart. That's I think that's kind of what he sort of suits best for him, is the fact that, he could use a guy like Anthony Ciu, to sort of boost his ability. And I think we saw it in the prospects tournament as well. He played well on the power play, which I think is a good sign for their special teams. I'm not sure how much, power play time he'll necessarily see, but I know he had a couple power play goals in the prospects tournament as well. So
I would think he would make. I really do, and I think Blashill did say something about how they have a spot open on that power play, on one of the power plays. So I really think that Hirose has a really good chance, just because his ability to be able to find the open man. That'll be really important. And we talked about this last year. The Red Wings needing more guys that have higher hockey IQ, that are able to make plays. When you don't have a Connor McDavid or a guy that's like Austin Matthews or Tavares or something like that.
Yeah.
You have to have guys that are able to make plays and set other guys up. And looks like they struck gold with Taro Hirose. So as long as he continues to develop the other parts of his game, I think they got a home run there with him when they
Absolutely,
got him. So and I think Yuri Fisher was really the guy that was behind a lot of that. So props to him and the team for getting him. But as far as offense goes, he in the prospects tournament, he was definitely one of the bright spots.
Yeah. I think another, one of the bright spots was, I guess we can transition a little bit on defense, was Moritz Seider. I think he was probably the most noticeable defenseman out on the ice there. He had a great prospects tournament. He played really well in the red and white game as well. Just looks super comfortable out there. I think we mentioned off air just the fact that there's no hesitation in his game. He looks very comfortable. He looks like he knows what he's doing. He looks like an NHL caliber defenseman right now, which I think is incredibly, impressive for his age. Just being 18 years old, he did play amongst men in Germany, but, just a strong player, a very confident defenseman, someone that definitely could turn out really good. I think the Red Wings again struck gold here. I think Yzerman made a great, selection in the draft here.
We were all like, I don't know about second guessing. You and I were pretty much good about it. We just were surprised, right?
I think that's what a lot of people was. If you looked at his face when he got drafted,
he was surprised.
Yeah, he was surprised at where he was drafted. So, but I think this is a kid, who has the tool set, and he's going to just develop really well. We've already seen that he doesn't plan right now to go back to Germany. It's not completely final. I think they're waiting to see just a couple more things when the preseason sort of wraps up here, but it sounds like he's going to be staying in the United States. It sounds like he doesn't have any plans to return to Germany, which is great for his development. For him to be able to get solid minutes in Grand Rapids this season will be great for him, and he'll play against some big guys in the AHL, and it'll because it's a different league, regardless of the fact whether he played against men 20, 21-year-olds in Germany. It's still a different league. The AHL is still a very competitive league, and he's definitely going to have to adjust with that as well. But I think it's only a positive sign for his development. I know a lot of people were saying, well, he might go back to Germany for a year, and I was one of the people who was saying that too. I said I think another year of development in Germany would be best for him. But I think it's great that he is able to sort of step into that AHL caliber player right away. Like you mentioned,
he's going to play big minutes.
Yeah, he'll play big minutes and potentially possibly make the main roster next season, like you were mentioning, after we lose, a lot of those defensemen next year. He's going to play some serious minutes next year on defense, which is great. And that's the kind of stuff I like to see. I think Grand Rapids is definitely going to be stacked next year when you have guys like, Veleno and Svech and Seider now, and there's some good kids on this team. They look, the Red Wings have a bright future in terms of their pool of prospects right now in Grand Rapids. Just there's a couple of kids who are right in the cusp of pushing over, and I think that's really exciting. The Griffins might have another shot at potentially being a Calder Cup finalist. I believe they won back in 2017. So maybe they have another shot this year. They got a lot of really young, good talent on that roster, and I think that bodes well for for their future, the Red Wings right now.
Well, they get to play together, and develop as a group. And I think with Seider, it's the acronym FTTD, Fast Track to Detroit. I mean, I think that's really why he's staying here, because they can get him in Grand Rapids. Horkoff and Cleary can work with him closer. They can even send Kronwall down there and help a little bit. I mean, he's going to get a lot of attention if he stays in the U.S. because they're going to be able to monitor what's going on with him. Ben Simon is going to utilize him the way that, he knows is best, and the way that Yzerman and Blashill want him utilized. They're going to be able to get, way more updates on what he's doing. And I think if he came in more raw and hesitant and struggled with the speed of the game, I think he would have gone back to Germany already. Would be going back to Germany for sure. But I think that you can tell just from listening to him talk. I mean, like, he's confident. He feels good about his game. In the prospect tournament, you probably noticed a few times Kirby Dach trying to line him up, and both times he knocked Kirby Dach right on his ass.
Yeah,
and this isn't,
that was great.
And Kirby Dach's like 6'5", right?
Oh yeah, he's a big kid. Oh yeah, I mean, this is a kid. We mentioned in the in the off season before the draft. I mean, this was someone that we potentially had the Red Wings lining up just because of his size.
And he looks really good, right?
Yeah,
he looks really good. So I mean, he had 2 times where he knocked him on his butt. And what that showed me was, like, he's so used to now already playing with men, he knows he's got to anticipate that hit's coming, because he was up against the boards for a decent amount of time there trying to get it out, and Kirby Dach was, just coming to line him up, and he knew it was coming at the last minute, threw his shoulder into him, and bam, Dach went down. And so that was really cool to see, because that showed me that he's ready to handle the physical part of the pro game that he's going to face. And he's already faced it in Germany as an 17 and 18-year-old, and more than likely, he's going to face it a lot in the AHL. Now, I'll tell you right now, man, like, if Eriksson or Daly wasn't here, I think he'd be on this roster. I think honestly, just watching him play, watching in camp, especially the red-white game, dude, other than Hronek and DeKaiser, he's the best defenseman on that ice, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Easily.
He looks good.
Easily.
Yeah, he looks really good.
And that's the thing. You can see it. Now, he's going to make some mistakes, but
and this happens.
But not the mistakes that you're seeing guys like look at like Cholowski, right? Or Cholowski, however you want to say his. So Cholowski is actually struggling with, some of the risky plays, like actually, trying to anticipate when he can make those plays and when he needs to not make them. The offensive ability is there, no doubt. Now with Mort Seider, or Mo Seider as he likes to be called, he's actually, really trying to be more conservative out there playing against some of the pros, because he kind of knows that he's going to have to be more patient, and he's going to have to learn the speed of the NHL game and the smaller ice surface, things like that. So I think he'll start to feel more comfortable, because he didn't really get to play power play minutes at all in Germany, and he just started playing penalty kill. He wasn't playing a ton of minutes in Germany. So now he's going to have a chance to do that in Grand Rapids more than likely. But, I mean, as far as the talent, like what's on this current Red Wings roster, he's definitely good enough to make this roster right now. It's just the spots and contract issue. It's the gifts that keep on giving with good old, Jonathan Eriksson and Daly. I mean,
exactly. Holland's impact still being felt after he's long gone from the program. His impact is,
and
still,
it will be for another 4 years with that applicator contract. So
it'll be there for a while, but
So I mean, very, very positive signs. But Oliver Koski looked really good too.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of prospects I really kind of wanted to see, especially on defense. Jared McIsaac actually didn't play in the tournament. I believe he was dealing with I think he had shoulder surgery, I think.
Yeah, and believe it or not, he was putting up all those points with that injury. He didn't want to come out.
Yeah,
in the queue. So.
Yeah, so I would have liked to see a little bit more from him, and then Philip Larson also didn't play, which this one I think draws a little bit of a concern just because it's that groin issue he's continued to have. He struggled with this injury in the past, and he didn't end up playing in the prospect tournament at all. And this is Larson's sort of poised to play behind Picard in Grand Rapids this season. He's supposed to be that backup, and I don't know how much playing time he'll necessarily get. I'm not sure if they'll do like a 50-50 or how much time he'll get in comparison to Picard, but I'm hoping that he'll get the majority of the.
Well, they want Picard to be the mentor for him. I think they fully intend him to play as much as he can. So
yeah. So I'm hoping that Larson still does get some decent minutes, but I think the groin injury, sort of like I mentioned, was a little bit interesting. Just he's had some injury history there, and I think the Red Wings just want to be as cautious as they can with that, and just make sure he's in the right spot in terms of his progression there with that injury, because it's definitely something they need to keep their eye on going forward. But I'm not super concerned about the McIsaac thing. He, like you said, he played through that injury last year in the queue with Halifax, and it's. I'm not super concerned about that. I think the only thing I was just disappointed is the fact that I didn't really get to see him play that much, and I haven't really got to see much of him in the queue either. So I'm looking forward to sort of his development and his progression there. But overall, yeah, I mean, I think that was a really solid, prospect camp. I wish there was, we got to see a little bit more of some certain players. I'm hoping that the Master Simone kid they drafted is back. I think he I can't remember his injury. I think he broke his.
Was it a broken leg or arm? Or
I think something? It was an arm or a leg. I can't remember. He broke something. He said he was out 4 to 6 months, I think. And I want to see him because I know he was really impressive out of he was impressive in juniors as well. So
4 to 6 weeks or months.
I thought it was months. I don't
know how serious the injury was.
Yeah, I don't know how serious the injury was either. It might have been.
He looked like he was really good in development camp. I mean, yeah. I'll tell you the one guy though that I would like to see more out of. I wasn't really all that impressed with him when I did see him was Gustav Lindstrom. I was hoping to see a little bit more out of him. From what I heard, he was really good in Frölunda last year, and I don't know. I mean, to me, he's a guy that's going to be in Grand Rapids. They've already kind of committed to him playing in North America. We'll see how he does. I don't know. Maybe it's just because the hype train of Seider and how good he's looked. I haven't really paid as much attention. I mean, I saw him, I think in the first prospects game, he did not play very well. And then I think he redeemed himself after that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think for the whole prospect tournament, I mean, it was really Seider that stood out, and I think Koski showed, what he comes as delivered. I mean, he had that shot, right? That was one of the big things about him is he's got that really good shot that he can get through in the power play, and he's somebody that I think it's going to be interesting to find out throughout the year when they have injury call-ups. Who's going to get the nod first? Is it going to be Koski? Mm-hmm. Is it going to be Seider? Is it going to be Cholowski?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cholowski hasn't done really a lot that I saw in camp. I know he didn't play in the prospects tournament because he's already technically a pro player, but it's interesting, man. I mean, they've got a lot. They went from having not very many defensive prospects to having quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Now it's a matter of who comes up and grabs one of those first pairing jobs. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
So
and if we want to transition a little bit into training camp some, I know you were there. I just want to give a couple of my observations before you sort of jump in, because I know you probably definitely have a lot more than I do. I think one of the biggest things we saw before training camp was just the fact that Dylan Larkin didn't get the captaincy. They ended up doing the whole quadruple A, or I just think that was, I do want to hear your thoughts with that, because I have my own, specific opinions about it. I'm pretty, I don't understand what's holding them back from it. I think if anyone is ready for the captaincy, it's Dylan Larkin. I mean, it's his team. It really is. I don't know what's holding him back, and I don't know what makes. Like, I think the only thing that frustrates me with it most is just the fact that they're putting guys like Abdelkader, who I feel like was a very lazy player last season. He's one of the two permanent A's, along with Larkin.
And he was last year.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. He was last year too. I think they're alternating between. I think it's Nielsen and Glendening, I believe, are getting third A. They're going back and forth. But I think it's just frustrating. Like, I don't have an issue. I think Nielsen and Glendening are solid grinders, especially Glendening. I think he's sort of a grinder player that I sort of like. He's a good fourth line guy, and always he, like I said, he's a gritty sort of player. But for me, I feel like Abdelkader was just so lazy last season, and to put his caliber of player, and to compare that to Larkin is just, to me, that's the part that's most surprising, is just the fact that I don't know what goes in the locker room. Maybe
it's the ghost of Holland is what it is. Yeah, it's the loyalty factor. That's what it is. I mean, it in no way can it possibly be based on his last year or two and on the team, because that, there's no way. I think it's a veteran thing. He's an older guy. He's an older guy, like Nielsen. But Nielsen is, definitely a better player than Abdelkader. Abdelkader is, yeah. And as far as what he brings to the table, I mean, Nielsen, he's a two-way center. He plays defensively responsible, obviously right up Blashill's alley. So I mean, that's what they want their forwards to be like. But so. That Larkin's going to eventually be the captain, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
There's no doubt in your mind, right?
No, there's
so why does
no
it
doubt,
matter if he's the captain now or the captain 6 months to a year from now?
Yeah, no.
As a fan, why do you think it matters?
To me, it matters just in the sense that I just think they, it's just sort of the symbolism behind it, I think. I mean, I know in my heart the fact that, he will be the captain of this team. I mean, I know it is a team. I mean, it is his team. I mean, this kid's coming off a year where he, I think he came off the best year of his career. I mean, almost was a point per game player. And I just think for me, it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, you got the new GM now, and, you sort of understand that. I don't know. Like, I feel like the sort of trading of hands from Holland to Yzerman was just sort of, when Yzerman came in here, he was just going to be like, okay, this is your team now. I need you to lead it. This is sort of the, my signing as a general manager sort of brings in a new tide of the Red Wings. This is a younger team. This is, next year we're going to see a lot of young kids on here that a lot of people haven't heard of, casual fans haven't heard of. So I think to have that recognizable face and saying, hey, this is our captain. This is the leader of our team. He's a marketable face. I think business-wise, I think, I guess it just merchandise-wise, selling Larkin jerseys with a C on them are going to get a lot more sales than with an A on them.
But why does that even matter, though? Like, I mean, if you think about it this way, Steve Yzerman became a captain probably before he should have.
Yeah,
that team was way worse shape than this team is now, right?
Yeah.
But they were perennially a bad, cellar dweller type team at the time.
Yeah.
He knows how tough it is as a young player to be a captain, and this is one of those times where, like we said when we got Yzerman as the GM, there are going to be some decisions that he makes that we're going to be like questioning. And this is one of them, dude, because this is an Yzerman decision. If this was up to Blashill, I think he would have taken the easy road and just made him a captain. You know why? Because if he didn't, then everybody would have pitchforks out in front of the Little Caesars Arena. People would be freaking out right now if this was Blashill's decision alone. And Yzerman obviously approved the way that Blashill spoke about this, because he said that him and Yzerman talked about it, and Yzerman wants to get to learn the team more. He wants to make sure, and I think think about Larkin. there's really not much to complain about with him, right?
Mm-hmm.
The kid busts his ass. He's the best player on the ice every night. He skates his heart out. You know, he gives back to the community. You know, he's an upstanding player, man. He's a classy player. But if you think about it, in any job you have, like if you walk in those doors every day and think that, you know, I'm not saying that Larkin goes in there thinking that his shit don't stink or that he's the best thing since sliced bread. I know that's not how he is, but everybody has an opportunity to improve and develop. And I think this is Yzerman's way of kind of pushing Larkin a little bit more and saying, hey, we have full confidence in you. We see you as a leader, but, you know, let's not rush this. Go in there, play your game, continue to get better, and it's going to be so painfully obvious to everybody that you're the captain of this team, and that's when we're going to do it. Right now, this team is a team in flux, and Yzerman wants to see what they've got. And I don't have a problem with it because eventually he's going to be their captain. It might not happen for a few months. They even said we reserve the right to change our mind. So when I heard that they were going to hold off on making him a captain right away, I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. But I don't care about jersey sales. I don't care about, like, they're already going to market the hell out of him. He's already the face of the team. So that, to me, nothing. The only thing that changes is that instead of having the first letter, instead of having the third letter in the alphabet on his jersey, he's got the first one. That's it. Now, you know, the whole team knows he's the leader. You know, so to me, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I mean, as a fan, would it be cool to see Steve Yzerman, you know, like anoint, you know, Dylan Larkin the captain of the team? Because, you know, when they do that, they're going to have a press conference and all this other stuff, you know, and they're going to make a big deal out of it, an opening night. And maybe Yzerman just knows, hey, I know what it was like for me to put all that on my shoulders with a struggling team without, you know, without really having a chance to win. And I don't want to put that on Larkin right now. He's still young. He's still got, you know, he's still going to be very young when he does get the captaincy. There's no reason to rush this thing. It's almost like he's sending a message to the rest of the team that no one is safe. I'm looking at everybody. I don't care who you are. I don't care how much Ken Holland loved you when you were on his team. This is my team now, and I'm going to run it the way that I think it needs to be run, and nobody is safe. Even the guy that you think is the captain of this team, I'm still evaluating his leadership ability. And I love that. I have that's a fair point. I have no problem with that. So as long as you know, they can't drag it out, right? They can't drag it out. I mean, at some point they're going to have to just do it, you know. But
I know what you mean.
But I think it sends a good signal to the rest of the team, though. And Larkin has handled it perfectly well. He knows. He said, I want to be the captain of this team. You know, I think I'm ready for it. But he hasn't come right out and said, you know, it's got to be me, or I'm going to be disappointed if it's not. I mean, he came right out and said, you know, hey, I get it, and I'm going to do my best to prove. And he's lighting another fire under his butt, and I think it could push him even further. So to me, I don't see a negative to this at all. Like, I think it's a bummer that, you know, you can't see, you know, Dylan Larkin come out under the spotlights and get to see. I mean, I think we would all feel good, but we're going to feel good about it for like 1 or 2 days, right?
Yeah.
After that, when the games start and they're losing 4-1 because their defense sucks, you know, no one's going to give a shit.
Yeah.
You know,
I understand what you mean.
It's going to make you feel good for 1 or 2 days. That's it. And after that, you know, you're going to be like, oh, he's our captain, right? But there's no need to add all that extra pressure onto him. He already knows he's the main guy, right? So, like I said, I think it's fine. I don't really care. I think it's actually probably a good thing. I mean, and it's Yzerman that's making the decision. I have trust that he knows what he's doing here. He's been the captain for a long time. He's been a captain of a team that sucks. He's been a very young captain of a team that sucks. So if anybody knows what Dylan Larkin is going through right now and what's best for him, it's Yzerman.
No, yeah, I agree with you in that aspect. I don't have any issue with him evaluating everyone's leadership, and I think like you mentioned, I think it'll sort of light a fire in Dylan Larkin and sort of improve his leadership skills and only boost him as a whole. And I don't really find much issue with it. It's just the one, and I get the whole, the Illiches and that whole aspect have always been a very they've always been very focused on loyalty in that sense. But to me, the only downside to it is just the fact that I just don't like the I don't know, I don't know what goes on in the locker room. I really don't. I'm not, we're not affiliated with the team or anything like that, so we don't have any inside scoop of what happens in the locker room or whatever else. But it's hard for me to believe that even as a veteran that Justin Abdelkader is putting in the same amount of work and is, has the same amount of leadership skills as Dylan Larkin in that locker room. And to me, it's just frustrating at the fact that they're viewed as equals. And in a sense, because if you think about it, okay, it's a tenure thing, right? But then why didn't a guy like Kronwall get an A, or you know what I mean? Or
he had an A.
Well, he did have an A. Yeah. Well, did he have an A last season?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess he did have an A last season. That's true.
It's just that Abdelkader is a slug now, and no one wants to watch him play, and he's not the same player that he was when he first. I mean, he's not even that old. I mean, but the thing is, he's not. I think what it is if you take the A away from him, okay. You take the A away from him, what message does that send? It sends a message of, we don't believe in you as a leader. And if they don't believe him as a leader, what the hell is he doing on this hockey team? Because he sure as hell ain't there because he plays, a sound two-way game right now. Because he's not that physical anymore. He's never been that fast, and he doesn't score that much unless he's got Pavel Datsyuk playing next to him. So, if not for his leadership, what else is he there for? And you and I don't know what he brings in the room. I don't know. I'm assuming that, they know a lot more than we do about that stuff, but it's just hard to believe, when you see him play every day, that this guy's really a leader. He does stick up for his teammates, but he loses almost every fight he's in. So I don't see the value of Justin Abdelkader, especially with that contract on this team right now. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's just the message that would send, they have nowhere to put this guy.
Yeah.
And they're not going to swallow a $4.2 million contract for the next 4 years and bury him in Grand Rapids and lose all that money on him. And they're not going to be able to trade him if they do that. Now, I don't think they're going to be able to trade him anyway, but you really aren't going to be able to trade him if you do that. So I think right now it's kind of like, look, how much more do we benefit from giving another player an A and taking it off of Abdelkader? What message does that send in the room? And I think, it's kind of like the path of least resistance is what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of what it is. But, I mean, if this is about Justin Abdelkader, that's just not going to – they're not going to do anything different with him right now. I mean,
I understand what you mean, but in that aspect,
it's a shit contract. They never should have signed in the first place.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy. He's a good dude. It's just unfortunate that if it's been injuries or his own, just him getting comfortable and knowing that it's kind of like that whole big contract syndrome that happens to players sometimes. It's like, look, I'm invincible. I'm going to make this money no matter what. They're not going to buy me out because they're going to pay this contract for the next 8 years if they do. So what do you do? Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. I think at some point, Yzerman's going to, I think when he gets, when he shaves another year off this contract, maybe that'll be it. But I mean, next year, if let's just say it takes the full year, Larkin becomes the captain and you've got Franz Nielsen as an assistant captain, you said what? Glendening and Nielsen and Abdelkader are the other three A's, right?
Yeah, the other three.
Well, unless they're going to be the only team in the league with a captain and 4 assistants, three assistants?
Yeah, 3 assistants. Well, the way it works is the fact that Nielsen.
How many damn assistant captains do you need?
Yeah.
I mean, when I was younger, they had Steve Yzerman, Sergei Fedorov, and for Niklas Lidstrom. Like I don't know that you need another assistant captain. Like it's
No,
like
I know what you mean.
I totally get where you're coming from, but I think they're two different arguments. Like I don't have an issue with Larkin not being the captain just yet, because like who the hell else is it going to be, right? Like it's going to be him. They're just they just said, Yzerman said that in his interview, or I think it might have been Blashill or something. They said that Yzerman wants to make sure that Larkin understands what he feels being a captain is all about for this team and what he's looking for out of the captain. So let him do that. Let him mentor Dylan Larkin and make sure that, he knows that he can handle that responsibility before he gives it to him. And we all think that he will be able to handle it based on how he's handled himself, even as an 18-year-old in the league. So this is really about us all being sour on Justin Abdelkader, which isn't going to change. But we all know that the longer Justin Abdelkader is on this team, the more likelihood that you're going to have other players that either deserve the A more, or players that should be on this team that are sitting in Grand Rapids right now. They're going to have to sit longer because of him, and this stupid contract.
Yeah, no, I agree.
They should force. You know what they should do, Chase? They should force a GM that if you sign like the league's one of the top 5 shittiest contracts in the league, that when you get another job, you have to take that contract with you. You know what I mean? That should be like a rule, right? Like, and that it would have worked out. It would have worked out good, right? Because isn't Shirelli like interviewing for like another job somewhere? I think somebody hired him, or they're thinking about hiring him somewhere else.
I can't remember what team's looking at him.
I think it might have been a West Coast team. I can't remember who it was. But anyway, say he goes to another team, he's got to take that. He would have had to take that Lucic contract with him, right? Then but then it would have been like, okay, Holland, you're going to get hired by Edmonton, but you're not going to get off that easily. You're going to have to take this shit ass contract that you signed with Abdelkader with you, because it's not fair to Detroit. Now they got to pay him for the next umpteen years with this contract. I mean, that we all want this thing. I mean, we all want this thing to end like tomorrow. Because it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know.
And look at how many things it affects. It's just unfortunate.
It does. It has a ripple effect. You're right. I mean, and I'll give Holland a lot of credit. I mean, he did sign Larkin to that great RFA contract. I mean, he has probably one of the best structured contracts for a player his caliber in the NHL.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just his loyalty issues, man.
Yeah,
it's the loyalty contracts, man. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, because Holland was one of the best at RFA contracts. I mean, he's one of the best in terms of being able to handle RFAs and knowing what to do in that sense. But the whole loyalty contract thing is literally one of the most frustrating things that I think he'll never get over as a general manager. Is the fact that he has too much value and loyalty to the team, and
and that's fine if they're still contributing. But I mean, you got yourself, you've got like seasoned pro scouts in your organization. You can't recognize that the only reason that this guy put up 23 goals one year is because he's playing next to probably one of the best centers in the league ever.
Yeah. And
Come on.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be more.
Chris Draper scored 20 something goals one year playing next to Sergei Fedorov. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
When did Chris Draper ever score 20 goals after that? He never did.
Yeah.
Okay. Martin Lapointe played next to Sergei Fedorov. He scored 20 plus goals too and got a huge ass contract from Boston, and Detroit almost matched it. So you got to recognize these things. And I think Yzerman is smart enough to do that. And I'm pretty comfortable that at some point there will be room made, and I think Abdelkader will be gone. And honestly, best case scenario would be that he just has a comeback year and he plays on that fourth line, and he really plays a strong game. But I just don't. I mean, I don't know. I know this isn't like, we weren't supposed to get on our soapbox too much about Justin Abdelkader, but I mean, it's hard not to with a contract like that. So hopefully he doesn't get in the way. I guess that's the thing,
Yeah, and this is nothing against Justin Abdelkader. I mean, sure, he's not the caliber of player that, he used to be, and he can't really help his contract situation. I'm sure, he'd want to, sort of help the team out as much as he could, and we're not necessarily trying to go out and bash just an advocator. It's just the situation is just unfortunate. It's just the fact that, his contract sort of puts the Red Wings in. So, we sort of went off into a tangent that we,
it's all right. It happens,
no. I mean, that's fine. I mean, I think that's a conversation that we needed to have. I mean, it was a good discussion. We both, I think you made some great points there, and just the fact that, for everyone who's sort of upset about Larkin not getting the captaincy, I mean, I think there are some positives to that. And I think, like you mentioned, Yzerman knows what he's doing. He's, familiar with that situation. And I think he's handling the situation as well as he could, which I think is smart. I mean, that's just what you have to go with. I'm going to transition here into a little bit of a couple other things that I noticed from camp. Just the fact that two of, the Red Wings free agency acquisitions, well, I guess some of them aren't free agency, but Patrick Nemeth has sort of been one of those under the radar players that I think is going to be really good next season for the Red Wings. And also Adam Ernie, I think, could also be a really big impact player. I mean, he's looked really good. From the small bits that I saw of training camp, I thought that he looked he looked good. I mean, it was one of those things where I think Ernie will be one of those, sort of low-key grinders. And I think he's only 24, if I'm not mistaken.
He's a young guy, man. I mean, and yeah, he's a third liner, more than likely, but with a lot of skill. And he just didn't get to show that in Tampa Bay. I mean, I think he's already made some really good plays in the preseason, and I thought he looked really good in camp. So I think that was a smart pick up for a 4th round pick or something.
I think it was something
we have 20 of those next year or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
something like that.
It was a good pickup. It made a lot of sense. I like it. So
yeah.
I think he's a physical guy. He's going to play hard every night. He's going to be one of those guys that when you get a guy that's willing to to play like that, that's going to play high energy like that, it really gives the rest of the line and the team a boost. So I mean, he's basically a better version of Abdicator.
No, I agree. Yeah, I mean, he's a young kid. I know. I mean, obviously, he must have. He has that sort of inside scoop on, some of the players that
scouted him. So,
yeah, he did. He scouted him. He drafted him, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where he knew that he was an RFA for this season, and he knew that Tampa Bay didn't have the money. They're obviously trying to figure out the whole Braden Point situation right now. So he knew that Ernie was a guy that they weren't, prioritizing on at the moment, and they knew they weren't going to match his offer sheet, and they said, here's a 4th round pick for him. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where I think, it was smart. I mean, it was a good pick. I mean, he's not going to be a crazy impact guy. But I remember I saw a video of him in in the preseason of him with a really nice pass to I believe it was it Hronek, I think, who scored last night or a couple nights ago in the Islanders game. He had a really nice pass. I think it was a backhand pass to Hronek, ended up scoring.
Yeah, he's got skills, man.
Yeah,
so
he's got skills.
We're not talking about just a traditional grinder in the way of doesn't have much on the offensive side. I mean, it's a lot of teams now. I mean, really, the third lines and fourth lines, they got to be able to contribute offensively. And so, being able to play physical and all is great, but you still have to get the puck in the net, and there's going to be games where your first line's getting shut down, and having a guy like Adam Ernie out there who's able to crash and bang and put the puck in the net and make good plays, smart hockey, smart player, high hockey IQ, again, competitive. Those are the kind of guys that Yzerman wants. And if you build your team out like that, and then every once in a while you get lucky and catch a break on a star player, then you're good, man.
Absolutely.
So, and that's what they're trying to do. There's a whole profile type that he's got for this team. Some guys are going to be bigger than others. I mean, but I mean it, like we said earlier. Tarho Rossi, may not fit the mold. I mean, he's not that big of a guy, but he's competitive. He's got a very high hockey IQ. That's what they're looking for. And unfortunately, in the last so many years before, I would say maybe before 2018 draft, we weren't really drafting that way. So, it's refreshing to see Yzerman bring in a player he knows a lot about, knows that he can contribute. He can be more than what he's been showing in Tampa Bay. He just needed the opportunity.
Yeah, no,
he'll get that
completely agree.
here, so you better.
Yeah. So those are just a couple observations from I had from camp. I know you were obviously there. Do you want to tell? I would just want to hear about your experience from camp and just some of the things that you noticed more than anything, because obviously just being at camp is obviously a pretty cool thing. So if you want to sort of, tell about a little bit about your experience more, and then sort of what who you noticed and who stood out to you.
Well, this was the third year that I've gone. So I went this year, I was there last year, and then I was there in 2013. So it was actually the last year Babcock was there. And, Babcock's last year. So, camp is cool, man. I think, with training camp, you kind of have to decide what you want to do with it. Like some people like to go and get, they want to go to meet the players and stuff, which you can actually do after the game, or after the scrimmages and all that stuff and the practices. They'll have media availability, and then the players will come outside and they'll have like a roped off area where you can have players come and sign, whatever you want, really. And then there's a cool section that's just for kids, So, we did that last year. I didn't do it this year. The players, we got to meet Mike Green and Svechnikov, and Jimmy Howard took a picture with my kids and stuff. Really, really cool. Guys are really, really cool about their time, and they're, it's great to see. But when you've got two little kids like I do, my kids are 10 and 6 years old. I mean, half the time they're asking for like a snack. They want their hot pretzel or whatever. So you're trying to like balance, analyzing what you see with also making sure your kids don't do anything stupid, So it's kind of, it sometimes can be hard. So it's, for me, it was really trying to hone in on certain players, right? Hronek really stood out to me. I thought he looked great. I mean, he put up, he had some really, really nice goals in one of the drills that they did, and he was scoring on Howard like a few times in a row. And I wouldn't read into that too much with anything to do with Howard or anything like that. I mean, those guys play at a different level during a game, but still, it was some really cool breakout plays where they had, the two of the forwards going in, and then, they had the defenseman trailing behind, and they would drop it to the defenseman and he would rip it. And Hronek had a few goals like that. And it was really cool to see. One of them, I captured one of them on video and I posted it to Twitter, but the one right before it, I don't know if they had like a little side bet going on or something, but it was really cool because he scored the goal and he got all excited and animated, like pumping his fist and stuff, like almost overdoing it for a practice. Yeah. And I'm like, there's got to be something behind that, like there definitely has to be some sort of little side bet going on or something between the guys. But that was really cool. And there's things like that you would never, unless you're at a practice or something, you wouldn't see, like some of the camaraderie and some of the joking around that happens during the drills. Like they work hard and they're fast paced, and these guys know what they're doing out there, but they have some fun with it too, So it was cool to experience that and see them working on it. Cider just, man, that kid's going to be so good when he actually when he gets to the NHL level and playing every day. I mean, he just, for the most part, knows where he's supposed to be. He doesn't like overplay anything. Like he's calm. He's smooth with the puck. He's a really good skater. He's not choppy out there at all. I mean, so it's just fun to see that. And Hickett's, man, Hickett's just delivers.
Really? Okay.
I really liked watching him play. The kid plays with, he plays balls out all the time. And I'm really pushing for this kid. I'm really hoping, he's not going to, more likely he's not going to make the roster. I'm just hoping that he doesn't get claimed in waivers. I hope he gets to play for Grand Rapids. Because he's somebody that I could really see making the team next year as like a third pairing extra guy, right? That could fill in. Or basically take Madison Bowie's job. Okay. As that 6th, 7th guy. And I really think he'd be great for the locker room. He's just one of those kind of guys that everybody, you can tell when he interacted with people, like everybody loves being around him. Right. Everybody loves Joe. So I think, I'm pulling for him. Giovanni Smith looked, like a different player compared to last year. And and what I saw from him, he just seemed more engaged, like in every drill and every scrimmage. I mean, he was getting some goals in there. Kid's got a shot. I think the biggest concern with him in previous years was his skating. Last year he kind of struggled a little bit at the AHL level, and then the second half or last quarter of the year he really found his game. But I know he had a discussion with Yzerman upon Yzerman getting hired about kind of what they're looking for from him, and it seems to kind of lit a fire. Like I think he has a really good understanding now of what kind of game he has to play at the NHL level and what they're looking for him to do. Mm-hmm. So I think he's gonna work his way onto this team in the next year or two. I think it's going to be as a fourth liner, third or fourth liner. But if he keeps improving, I mean, if he keeps doing what he's doing now, and does that in the AHL, I think he could really be an important player for that Grand Rapids team.
No, I agree. Yeah,
and that would be really, really cool. They drafted him in the second round several years ago.
2016, I believe. Yeah.
Was it 2016?
Yeah, I believe it was 2016.
Yeah, and he's a physical specimen. I mean, seeing him out on the ice, he's a big boy. I mean, I don't know if you have his measurables in front of you or anything, but he's a big kid. I mean, and he plays big now. I think last year he kind of was a little hesitant.
Giovanni Smith is 6'2", 205.
Yeah,
is what NHL currently has him at, which is big. I mean, that's a big boy right there.
He's muscular.
Yeah,
he's all muscle, dude. The kid's just got to keep working on his skating, and he can score. I mean, he actually can put the puck in the net. He's not just some big grinder out there that can't do anything offensively. You see, he has some offensive upside there, so that would be exciting. I think just overall, like the guys that you wanted to see something out of, you got to see that. Joe Veleno looks great as advertised. Philip Zadina still can't buy a damn goal. I didn't see him score. I don't think I saw him score more than a couple goals, if that, in the drills. I just think he's overthinking it, man. And I think he's going to be, once he figures it out, like once he kind of gets out of his own head, because the kid's 19?
Yeah, he's 19.
So once he gets out of his own head and just kind of realizes that, like someone was saying, I forget who it was, that, look, I mean, if you're like a guy that you're thinking some guy's going to score 30 goals in the regular season. So look at what Larkin, Athanasiou, what they just did. They scored 30 plus goals in the regular season, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So some of those games they may have scored, 2 goals. All right. Well, let's just say for sure, half of the games that you play, you're not going to score. You're not going to score a goal. So what do you do in the rest of the game? Right? You got to be able to contribute at a high level in other areas of the game. And one of the things that I saw out of Zadina, even though when he wasn't scoring, he was skating really hard. He was making smart passes with the puck, and he got, he really set up some players really, really nicely. He's got a high hockey IQ. So, and he's very competitive. So that's going to serve him well. He just has to get out of his own head. And I think once he does that, once he gets some confidence rolling, it's going to be like when Franzen, he was never really a goal scorer, but man, once he started scoring goals, it's just like he didn't stop. Remember that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just once you get that confidence, you're rolling. I think he's got that to get over, and Svechnikov looked really good. I liked how he looked. I don't think he's not 100% yet coming back from his injury, but he showed.
He looks good. Yeah,
he showed me something. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard he's making strides, and and it's tough like that. You're coming off a big injury,
but he's also very hard on himself. Right? Yeah, that was kind of the book on him last year. Is just like he gets really down on himself when he had a great first year in Grand Rapids, scored 20 plus goals or whatever, and then he struggled a little bit after that the next season, and he didn't do so well. So then he gets hurt. So I mean, he's got a tough road, but man, I mean, he's faced a lot of adversity early on. But I don't want us to forget about Svechnikov because, I don't think anybody that says he's a bust right now, I can understand why, but I don't think he is. I think you got to give that kid you got to give that kid some time to get back from this injury, get some, get some confidence, get in the groove of things. And then they have to make sure, and he has to make sure he understands what his role is going to be at the pro level. What kind of player is he going to be? Is he going to be a second, third line winger that, is a big guy that can, protect the puck, help with puck possession, be good on the cycle, and, throw in 20 goals a year? That'd be great if that's what they get out of him at this point. Yeah. If you think that he needs to be scoring 30, 40 goals a year to be an impact guy, good luck, because that's probably not going to happen, because he's probably not going to see enough ice time to get that. So when Zadina finally makes his way onto this roster, the kid's going to be playing a lot of minutes. So I would rather him play a lot of minutes in Grand Rapids and put up a lot of points than him play 12 minutes a night in Detroit and play on the third line without any guys that, even if he's not scoring, to be able to pass the puck to Joe Veleno.
That combo, just thinking about it.
I'd much rather him do that than pass it to Christopher N. or Jacob De La Rose.
Yeah, exactly.
So
just thinking about that line. So we could just think about it a little bit here. So we'll just do a little bit of a line predicting. So how about the first line? You see it skating out there for the Grand Rapids Griffins. You have the first lines, Joe Veleno centering, at right wing Filip Zadina, left wing Svechnikov, and then the two defensemen are Cholowski and Sider.
Yeah,
the thought of that is incredible.
That's wicked, dude. That would make me, want to go take my family down to a game at Grand Rapids.
Absolutely. That just the prospect there, just the fact that could be a similar line we're seeing eventually with the Red Wings in the next couple of years. That's an exciting thing to think about.
And your second line very well could be Michael Rasmussen, Kuffner, and Giovanni Smith.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another player I want to touch on. Rasmussen, especially in the preseason here. He had that game-winning goal against Chicago in the first game. I think they won. They won 5-3 in that game. So technically, he won. Technically, he scored the fourth goal, but that was the supposed game winner, I guess, if you want to say that. But after that game, he sort of lost all of his confidence. I don't know what happened. He looked like that goal. He was so hyped for that goal. That goal looked like it lit a fire, and then all of a sudden, these last couple of preseason games, he really has not been much of a factor. And where do you think he sort of lands? Because I know, obviously, Rasmussen is a big impact player on the power play. He scored, I believe, 50% of his goals from last season on the power play. So
that's how he scored in juniors.
Yeah, exactly. That's how he scored in juniors. So, where do you think do you think he, like you mentioned, Yzerman said they have that open spot on the power play. Do you think he gets that, or do you think that's more of a, Taro Hirose type fit where, he's obviously played really well on special teams? Do you think Rasmussen makes this roster to start the year?
No.
No? You don't think so?
No.
Why? I'm just curious.
I don't think he's bringing enough yet. In other aspects of the game. You're going to have to do more than just be the guy that tips in pucks from the front of the net. That's my opinion. I think that I'm very excited about him overall. I think you need a guy like that. I want him to play big minutes in Grand Rapids, I want him playing center in the NHL. I think that's where he'll have the most value. And they've kind of talked about that. I think Blashill said something about they really want him to be a dominant two-way center that can play on the power play and contribute in that way, because that's where he's going to get his goals, right? That's just, for me, that I don't really see him making the opening night roster. And if he does, he's probably not playing top two line minutes, because if you think about it, you're going to have Larkin on the first line center. You're going to have either Nielsen or most likely Nielsen, but then you also have Phil Pula. So those are your three centers there. Now, not that I agree with her on a lot of stuff, but obviously she's very close to the team and has a lot of firsthand knowledge of what, the team is doing. But, Helene St. James posted her opening night lineup like a predictor, type thing. And Rasmussen's not even on it. She's got Larkin, Mantha, Bertuzzi, then Nielsen, Athanasiou, Hirose, which I think is very likely. So those two lines, I pretty much agree 100%. Filppula, Ernie, and Christopher N. The N one, I'm not convinced about. I think that one is, I don't get it. Like, to me, N is like the definition of a meh player.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not really, he doesn't,
Yeah.
I'm not upset by him or excited by him. So I'm apathetic really with him. And then you got, the dominant fourth line of Glendening, Abdelkader, and Helm. The most expensive fourth line in hockey.
Yeah.
Stupid. Defense, Namath, Green, DeKaiser, Hronek, Trevor Daley, Madison, Bowie, with Eriksson being the seventh. Or you could flip that however you want to. Rasmussen, in my opinion, he could be that guy that's on that line with Filppula and Ernie, right? But if you want the guy to be a center, why would you play him third line minutes on the wing? Like, if the whole goal is to develop him to take over for eventually either Filppula or Nielsen as one of those two centers, because think about it. I mean, if nothing else changes and they don't pick up like another dominant center like prospect in the draft, your three top centers realistically going forward after the next couple years could be Larkin, Veleno, Rasmussen. If Rasmussen develops into a defensive minded or two-way center that has the ability to put the puck in the net, he has a good shot and can score from in close with a body like that, with the size that he has and the puck tipping ability that he has. There's your first three centers, and then
absolutely
do whatever you want on the fourth line. But I mean, figure it out. But I'm just saying, like, that very well could be, and that there you go. Those are 3 first rounders, 1, 2, 3, as your first 3 centers, and that'd be fine because if you think about it, by that time, no more Darren Helm. Luke Glendenning's contract is up too, I think. Filppula and Nielsen. Filppula's only on a 2-year deal, so it's a stopgap. And maybe they're able to. Maybe they feel strongly enough about how Rasmussen does that he can steal that job next year. I mean, to me, if they're trying to get Rasmussen as that third line center, if that's what their goal is, then he should spend the year playing in Grand Rapids as a center, playing second line minutes only next to Veleno.
No, I agree. Yeah.
That's what I think. And if that's what they do, I think that's smart. If they put him on this team, the only reason they're doing it is because they want someone to make the power play look better. Because I don't know that it's in the best interest of his development, because we already know he can do that.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole point of developing a young player is to develop the other areas of his game that he needs to be effective at to make an impact at the NHL level. Like, Christopher N is never going to be more than what he is. You put him there, you're not really, I'm sorry. Christopher N seems like a pretty hardworking player, but I don't see Christopher N being in the top 9 on this team in a year or two, unless it's on the fourth line replacing Darren Helm or Justin Abdelkader. And by that time, you hope that Giovanni Smith or Chase Pearson or some of these other guys who are younger, that might have more of an offensive skill set, can contribute at the NHL level and surpass him. You still have all these other guys that we just drafted that, like, we haven't even talked about Jonathan Berggren.
Yeah.
You got Master Simone, you got, all these other guys that, at some point these kids are going to make this team, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, who's going to be the center though? Because I don't know who they drafted even this year that's a center.
I think it was I can't remember his name. I think he was the kid they took in the 4th round. I'm gonna look this up.
But
Really
the
quick
fact
here,
that you
but-
can't remember his name tells you all you need to know. That it's a project. They're raw. These are kids that we don't know what their projection's going to be or what they're going to project to be. But we drafted Rasmussen 9th overall in 2017 to be a center, and they used him as a winger last year. It was probably the best thing to do, because being a center as a rookie, as an 18-year-old, is a pretty tough task. And he never played a lick of pro hockey. You couldn't put him in the AHL because of the stupid rules that they have with the way this, the draft works with the CHL. So I get why they played him last year in the NHL, but I personally think he would benefit from playing big minutes in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, no, I agree. Ethan Phillips was the player I was thinking of, by the way, at center. He was he's the really little kid. He's the 5'9", he's 175, the kid who played in Sioux Falls.
Okay.
He is
Fast
the center
player.
prospect. Yeah, he's fast. He's a quick kid, but obviously they just said he needs to build his size, so he's obviously a big project. But like I said, he's young, 18 years old. Obviously, he has plenty of time to put muscle on. And but yeah, like you mentioned, a lot of these guys are going to be projects. They're not going to be, it's going to take some time to develop these guys and get them going. So
or we just get lucky and get Lafreniere.
Yeah.
But
There you go, yeah.
we all know how the draft lottery's worked out for us so far. So
yeah,
I think that those are my thoughts on Rasmussen. I'll tell you right now what I'm really excited for this year is that first line in Detroit, because I think Mantha is going to just have a breakout year.
absolutely.
That kid was
yeah.
ripping pucks past goalies in camp this year. I mean, and just like it wasn't even hard. Like, I mean, he had some goals. I'm just like, damn, like he just gets it. Like he is on top of it right now. So he looks confident. He looks like he's having fun. All three of those guys, like Bertuzzi and Mantha, like, because Larkin tweaked his heel or he's got some kind of lingering heel issue. Nothing that's going to keep him out of regular season play, but they're kind of playing it safe with him right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to be excited for Red Wings hockey this year just for that first line. Because the chemistry that they were showing at the end of the season was really cool, really good, and I think Mantha's going to score some goals this year, big time. He just needs to not break his hand again, and it'll be okay.
Yeah. Well, he's not fighting Namath this year, so
but he might have to fight Witkowski again.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You might have to fight Witkowski. And when he addressed this in a previous episode, it feels like whoever he fights end up, playing for the Red Wings. It happened with Witkowski and it happened with Namath. Everyone said, hey, you should go break your hand fighting McDavid or someone else. See if they'll, they'll make their way over here.
That would be something else, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but yeah, I
with
see
our
Mantha
luck, he'll fight Lucic.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. But I know for a fact that, at least I'm confident in the fact that I think last year, had it not been for his injury, I think he only played like 60-some games last year. Had it not been for his injury, I think he would have been a 30-goal scorer. This year, I think he can eclipse 30. I think he goes even to 35.
Yeah, I think he's capable of it. And last year, don't forget, when he started the season out, he wasn't even playing top-line minutes. He was kind of being thrown on the third line at times. He wasn't even being given... he wasn't playing with Larkin at the beginning of the year. So, he wasn't getting the ice time. I mean, and he kind of started a little bit slow and it took him a little bit of time to figure it out. But then once he really started to get it, then he had the injury, I mean, so it was kind of a disjointed year for him, and he still put up 24 goals or whatever. So, I mean, I think he's definitely got the tools. I mean, and Blashill said he's just like a big monster out there.
Mm-hmm.
This is the red-white game, Chase. Like, there's not usually a lot of hitting going on, and he really laid some big hits on people.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, damn, like it was the most competitive red-white game I've ever seen.
Really? Okay.
And I'm not saying that's like, wow, that's a revelation here. Like, oh my God, they're going to be great. It's just, usually those games are kind of like pickup hockey. Like they play hard, but I mean, they're not going to go out of their way to, hurt anybody or really play physical. But you could tell the guys were really fighting for a spot and they were taking it seriously. And there was some hits in that thing. And, I forget who he he knocked a couple guys aside. I mean, he's big. He keeps getting bigger. He's skating well. We always known that he's been both a high-end scorer and a passer. So, I mean, he's putting the tools together, and now he's going to get to play with, Larkin and Bertuzzi. And I just love seeing like I said, the camaraderie and the chemistry. I mean, that's a young team like that's what they need. And really, Mantha's what, 24 now?
Yeah, I believe he's 24. Well, yeah.
23, 24?
He's 24, yeah. He's 24, coming up on 25.
Yeah, so I mean, this can't take too much longer. I mean, he's getting into prime years, so, he needs to have a big year, I mean, to justify that big contract that he's going to want. And I mean, look at the contracts they're handing out right now, man. I mean, it's pretty, like you said, I mean, Holland did leave a nice parting gift with that contract for Larkin because, I mean, even Mantha, like, I don't think he's going to be able to walk into a room and say, I should make $2 million more a year than Larkin does.
Yeah, exactly.
So that really, that helped. That's really going to help Yzerman out when he goes to try to lock up AA and Mantha. Although we all know that AA tends to be a little bit more, he's got a little bit more of an ego on him. And, I thought he looked really good in camp too. Okay. He scored a goal in the red-white game, beautiful goal.
He scored a goal in the preseason as well.
Yeah, and just the thought of him playing with Taro Hirose and him helping him, and you're going to have Nielsen or Filppula being able to back him up on the defensive side of the game a little bit more. So you're going to let AA do what he does best. And that's use his speed and his finishing ability. And that's something that, they got to take advantage of it. So hopefully that's what happens. I mean, they have a potential to be, I don't think they're going to be a good team, but I think they can be a dangerous team and competitive. And I think it'll be fun. They could be fun to watch. It to me, it's just, just the continual progression of a guy like Hronek. And hopefully DeKeyser has the kind of year he did last year versus the year before that. Green staying healthy. I want Green to stay healthy because, honestly, I want them to be able to move him this year. Yeah,
I would like to, too. Yeah, he'd be a big, well, he doesn't have he has his no-trade clause in effect, doesn't he, though?
Not at trade deadline time.
Oh, yeah, but...
They have the ability to move him at the trade deadline this year.
Really? Okay, yep. That's interesting.
Yeah, the way that I think it runs out like at a certain point in the year this year.
Okay.
So
interesting. Well, that'll be good then.
He knows what's up, dude. He knows. Yeah. I mean, he's getting older, and he is older. He knows that, dude. Like, how many more chances you going to get? If he has a good year and he's healthy, I mean, he's putting up points, and when the Red Wings are at the bottom again, I mean, they're gonna move him. So I want him healthy. Whatever you want to. I mean, Daly. I will say one thing. Daly had a beautiful pass to I think it was to Athanasiou, and sprung him loose for a breakaway in the red and white game. I think it was. He like rifled it right up the middle of the ice. I mean, it's a shame that guy just hasn't really. He played pretty decent the first year we had him, but since then he's just been injured or just got him. Yeah. I mean, the analytics between him and Eriksson last year were just horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, just two of the most ineffective defensemen on the ice last year. So, I mean, you hope that there's some improvement for Daly because, like I said, he's available for trade too. I mean, you want these guys to be movable.
Yeah, no, I completely
If not,
agree.
they're just gone. I mean, you're going to lose them for nothing, but you weren't going to bring them back anyway. So we'll see, man. But camp overall was exciting. It was cool. I mean, if you guys have not gone to training camp before, Traverse City is a beautiful area. I vacation there quite a bit during the summer. It's, spending part of your day in a hockey arena is not a bad thing when it's warm outside, right? So it was actually nice out there, but you're only really the way they did it this year, and every time I've gone it's been different. Like, so last year I went, they had 3 or 4 different lineups, and they had one lineup, I think it was either last year or the year before, where Blashill even said that there was like the main lineup, which was mostly consisting of guys that they pretty much already figured made the team because none of the other prospects are really close to making it. Whereas this year they kind of had two teams that were kind of more evenly balanced, where they would have, like a guy like Veleno with a guy like a Nielsen, or they would split it up more evenly balanced between two teams, and then there's a third team that's mostly guys that are going to play for Grand Rapids or are non-drafted invitees. So guys that they're looking at. It's kind of like, if you think about it, I think it might have been like what they did with Hiroshi, where they had him come out to some of the different camps and stuff, or they couldn't let him go to training camp, but I think he went to one of the development camps or something, and because college players can go to that, and they had their eye on him all season long before they signed him to that deal. They pretty much told him, hey, we can't do anything about it now, but let's see how the year goes, and they were able to sign him to that deal. That's what they're looking at, guys that could be diamonds in the rough, guys that can help fill out Grand Rapids and Toledo, guys that are going to help continually make other players around them better. I didn't really watch much of that team at all because, just my time was limited, and by 1 o'clock, by 1 o'clock, both of the main two teams were done, right? And then at 3 o'clock, I think the whole thing is done. So it's not that long of a day, Yeah. You can go to there's a big charity game, like a alumni game on the Saturday, which I went to about 6 years ago. I didn't go the past 2 years. And then there's the red-white game. Now, it starts on Friday, so it's open to the public on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Okay. But, my wife and I were working on Friday, so we went at night after, so we missed Friday. But really, for someone like me, 2 days is plenty. I do want to give a shout-out. When I was there, we're one of several different Red Wing podcasts and channels on YouTube and stuff like that. There's a lot of passionate hockey fans, Red Wing fans out there that are doing stuff like this. You guys all probably know about Winged Wheel, and we've communicated with Grindline. Is that what it is?
Yeah, Grindline. Yep.
Yeah. I ran into Rachel and Janae Anderson from Access Hockey Michigan. Took a picture with them. Just two real nice ladies that run a website over there. They have the YouTube channel and they have a podcast now. But they're very passionate about hockey in Michigan, not just the Red Wings. And they talk about the USHL team out in Muskegon. I think it's the Lumberjacks. They cover them a lot too, and they've done some player interviews and stuff like that. So. Just keep supporting us folks out there and check them out. But we're going to try and get them on the show one time to just kind of do something during the season, just to kind of talk about some of the young players and stuff like that. I think it'd be kind of fun just to collaborate with them. But, it's a cool experience. You get to see people that you see on TV all the time when you watch the games. Like Trevor Thompson and John Keating and stuff like that. I got really close up to Kronwall and Yzerman, and we got last year. I got to shake Blashill's hand, and it's cool, man. It's cool to be around it. There's a lot of it. It's like everybody that's. It's funny though because there's a mix, Chase. Like, there were times where I was standing next to people that knew who all these guys were. Yeah. And the people that were sitting behind us at the red-white game, like, they didn't even know who Taro Hirose was. They didn't know, who's, 54 was Pumple, right? Matt Pumple, who, you and I know he's an AHL guy, right? He's an injury call-up, if you need him in a pinch, but mostly he's going to play in Grand Rapids. That's why they signed him. Yeah. He's like, oh, who's 54? He must be a prospect, looking up. They don't know. Yeah. So some of these people, like, I'm not ripping on it. It's just they're more casual fans, right? And they don't really know what. Some of the guys they're there to see Larkin. They're there to see Mantha and Bertuzzi and Howard. That's what they're there for. I'm there because I want to see how some of those guys look, But
absolutely,
I'm really there more for Joe Veleno, Zadina, Sider.
The younger guys, exactly. Yeah.
I want to see what's coming next, and that's why I go, and that's why we cover it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and I think there's always that aspect. I mean, obviously Howard, a guy like Howard's been, in the organization a while, and obviously you're going to see guys like Mantha and Bertuzzi, those bigger names and the names that people are actually familiar with. But I think that's what I enjoy most about doing this podcast and sort of being a part of this community is the fact that you get to know, all of the, the future of the program, and know that there's, you get a little bit more of an inside scoop in terms of, knowing the progressions that your organization's making in terms of rebuilding, instead of just being like, out of the know and, not really knowing what direction the team's going in. So definitely interesting here, but it's great. I've enjoyed all the, interactions we've had. You mentioned, you met those guys, at training camp, and, it's been
a
great.
community. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, it's just
community.
cool because now, I mean, I don't know, like instantly there's a bond there, I mean, it's weird. I'm there with my family and I'm like, I see these two girls from Access Hockey Michigan.
Yeah.
Like I just happened to watch their channel a few times. Like, oh, it's them, I didn't even know their names. I'm like, hey, you don't even, but I mean, they were very nice, very personable, and we're all there for the same thing because we love this hockey team. We love hockey in general, and we really want to, get our passion out there so that you guys, have some other, some other medium to listen to support your team, and that's, we're fans first and foremost, but I mean, we're going to tell you when we think something's ridiculous. And obviously we did that today a little bit, but I mean, it's cool to be able to actually link up or hook up with some of these other folks that do what we do because they love doing it. It was a bummer I did not get to meet Max Boltman in person. I mean, I'm sensitive to the fact that the guy's there to do a job and I'm actually there for fun. So
yeah.
So I mean, I looked around for him. It just didn't work out. And those guys watched the games and the scrimmages and stuff more at the floor level, at the ice level. So it just, the opportunity didn't present itself, but it's cool to be around it, man. I mean, Chase, I know you're far away, but if you ever have a chance to do it, it's a great experience. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I really want to do. It's something I'm looking forward to possibly going to in the future. And, because the way you're describing it sounds like a great time. So it's definitely something I need to do and get to camp. Eventually I want to meet some of the people, there. And I think it'd definitely be a cool opportunity, to meet some of the people that we're working with, and also, a lot of people in the organization as well. So, going forward, we're going to be sure to collaborate with a lot of these people as well, which I think is awesome. We're always looking to sort of grow the community and sort of expand our horizons in terms of the community as well, because we want to work with as many people as possible. The Red Wings community, especially the podcast community is great. You got a lot of great personalities here, and it's awesome. So being able to work with these guys in the future, I hope you guys are looking to, forward to it as much as we are, because we are definitely looking forward to that kind of opportunity there to, work with some people in our community. So let us know who you guys want to see us collaborate with. We can try to make something work. We'd love for, you guys to leave any suggestions of people you want to hear us collaborate with, and we'll do our best to, link up and try to get something out, because, the Max Boltman thing worked out really well. And I think, expanding into the community would just be really great. And we want to do that a lot. So let us know on Twitter, who you want to see us work with. We're definitely going to be, pretty active again this season when it rolls around, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of opportunities for collaboration, stuff like that. So, I think we're going to wrap it up here though for today. Thank you guys for listening to this week's episode of the Hockeytown Rundown. Jay, do you want to, sign us off? Tell them where they can find you on Twitter.
Yeah. I'm just going to be at Warm Chord Music on Twitter. Now just taking a second here, I do have a new podcast. So if you like music, if you like movies, if you like beer, that's what we do. It's called Movies, Music, and Beer. It's a podcast that's pretty much everywhere, probably the same place you found this one. But my friend Ryan and I, we just started doing that. Our last episode, we covered the movie It Chapter 2. So we do a mix of both newer stuff and both some retrospective stuff. But we're both, he's about to be a new dad, and I've got 2 kids of my own, so we're trying to cater to folks that are in the same situation. You can't go to the movies all the time. Stuff's coming out. Is it really worth your time? We're going to tell you what we think about it, and give you some suggestions for some music. And if you're into beer, then you get to listen to that. We put all of our episodes in pretty neatly organized chapters, as far as, if you don't really care about, 1 or 2 of the different topics, you can skip right past it. But we definitely spend most of the time talking about the movie of the week. So our next episode is going to be about the movie Get Out from 2017. So it's fun. It's lighthearted. It's meant to be a entertaining type thing. So hopefully you guys check it out. And Chase, I know you also, I just listened to your most recent episode that you guys did on Michigan Sports Entertainment podcast, right? You guys did something. Mm-hmm. You guys talked about the Lions for a bit. We got the game coming up today against Philadelphia, right?
Yeah, exactly. My friend David Rosenberg and I run a podcast over on our main site, Michigan Sports and Entertainment, which is also associated with this podcast. We have run MSC Countdown over there, and we previewed the Lions game today against Philadelphia. We also covered the game from last week against the Chargers. We talked a little about Red Wings preseason as well. Over there, we don't really get too into the Red Wings, but if there's stuff that goes on, we definitely bring it up, and it's definitely not as in depth as this podcast here. But
you don't want to steal our thunder.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. I try to keep it as limited. I try to get just the big bits out of it, and I think we go
cool.
more in depth here. So if you guys are big sports fans, obviously if you guys are Red Wings fans, you guys might be fans of other major Detroit sports teams. We talk about professionals. We talk about the Lions, Pistons, Tigers as well, and we also do college. So we're big on Michigan and Michigan State over there. Both David and I lean towards Michigan, but we also do talk Michigan State. We talked about the Spartans game against Arizona State there last week, on the most recent episode. So be sure to check out for that as well. You guys can find us on Twitter at Hockeytown Rundown, Hockey TWN Run DWN. On Twitter, we're going to be interacting like crazy. We're going to be posting polls, like we mentioned at the beginning of the episode. We're probably going to post a poll a little bit there about, the favorite Kronwall memory. So be sure to vote on that, and we'll maybe share about that in a future episode. But look out for us during the regular season, and we're going to be, and it's during the off season as well. We're going to bring you guys some more stuff. The regular season's right around the corner. Their first game, I believe, is October 5th, right? Against the Presidents.
And we would have had a couple other episodes this summer, so we weren't taking the summer off. But I screwed the pooch on one of these when I was trying to clean out my computer and deleted one of the episodes. And I know, Chase, you had some technical difficulties with another one that we did. So full confidence, we are back in full force for the season. Yeah. So we didn't go anywhere. We just we don't get paid to do this. So if we did, we would have got fired. But I guess we're having fun with it. We hope you guys do too. So we'll be back in at least every other week, if not every week.
Yeah. All right. With that, we're signing off for the week. We'll see you guys later.
Take care.